So, Brooke, now let's go to what do you actually do? And as I think through, like when you first started with me, what was some of the most valuable tools or resources where we kind of laid the framework to allow you to do your job at the highest level on the daily basis? The one that always comes to mind for me is the executive summary, because that's to me kind of like extracting kind of some of the DNA out of me so you can do your job at the highest level. So should we start there? Or is there anywhere else we should start?
Yes, I can quickly list some of the what I would say roles or tasks of an EA, and then we can kind of go into that where to get started with the executive summary. As Brad said, calendar management, kind of coordinating between the family and the work life, inbox management, travel planning. A lot of times, an executive is going to need help with project management, to-do management, an EA is able to really step in and do like meeting notes, agendas, a lot of that prep work so that the founder can really show up for success wherever there need to be. A lot of sometimes personal assistant with maybe birthdays, holidays, different kind of things like that. And then light, I would call light accounting, expense reports, receipts, things like that. So those are kind of what I would say is kind of the top 5 or 6 things. And then if I were to say, so you've hired an EA, where do I start? As Brad said, what's called the executive summary is the place that you want to start. And we actually got this from Michael Hyatt and Jim Kelly. And basically it's Brad's life on a spreadsheet. And so this is where when you start with an EA, the EA is going to want to interview the executive and get all the information. So this is, their kids' birthdays, their spouse birthdays, kids' shirt sizes, just anything you can think of for the family front. This is travel preferences. So where do I like to sit on a plane? What are my favorite airlines? How do I take my lunch? Like just anything you can think of that would set the EA up for success. And that's kind of the go-to. So anytime I'm booking something, I'm ordering lunch, a lot of this I have in my mind after 3 years, but when I was starting, that was really helpful because I would just go to one place and have all the information that I need on Brad, on the family, and then I was basically set up for success. And so that's where you would want to start. I think the second thing is you're going to want to have some sort of password sharing software. And so that may be LastPass, it may be 1Password, whatever you prefer, but really setting the EA up for success to have airline accounts, maybe DoorDash accounts, hotel accounts, anything that they would need to book on your behalf. And so you're going to want to have some sort of password sharing software. I think the third thing that you'll want to do is really sit down with the EA and communicate your ideal week. And so this is really helpful when you get started because you may have a certain time that you like to take lunch. You may have certain days of the week that themes that you like to do. So maybe for Brad, he likes to do podcasts on Fridays. So I know to schedule the majority of those on Fridays. We do a lot of internal meetings on Mondays, external stuff, Tuesday and Wednesday. So just kind of knowing what the ideal week looks like, and that can evolve over time, but just having a framework when you start to kind of know, okay, this is how I'm going to start setting up the week. Brad likes to do, the first hour of the day as kind of like a morning startup ritual. And so we don't schedule meetings unless we need to, the first hour of the day and the last hour of the day. So really just kind of interviewing and getting a framework for the ideal week is really key. And then the last 2 things I would say when you're getting started is setting the EA up for success with the team and then on the home front. And so what I mean by with the team is you're really going to want to set the EA up for success with the team and kind of letting them know, hey guys, I may have managed my calendar beforehand, but from now on go to this person. And anytime that may take a little training with the team. And I know sometimes people have tried to kind of go back to Brad, but just Brad does a really good job of, hey guys, make sure to loop in Brooke and just really setting the EA up for success with the team. Like, hey guys, I trust this person. They're okay to be looped in on XYZ, and really setting them up for success is huge, like from the get-go. And then the last thing is setting them up for success with the family. And so if it's like Brad said, interviewing with the spouse, or setting up a meeting to where the spouse is able to say, hey, these are my priorities. This is how I prefer to be communicated with. I prefer if you email me about stuff. I prefer if you text me, and just kind of setting up that cadence of communication with the spouse and the EA too. So I think if I were to get started, those would kind of be my steps on training with and getting started with the EA.